from Ohio, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for your written statement, and also thank you for your recognition of the importance of our nuclear deterrent, and specifically our investment in our modernization of our nuclear deterrent. We are behind, as you know, in the modernization of our nuclear stockpile. Your recognition of our investment in our triad and our command and control is incredibly important. Thank you also for your recognition of the importance of our future investment in missile defense and the importance that the Golden Dome will play. The Secretary General of NATO has recently made statements of his concern of Russia's future attempt to place an anti-satellite nuclear weapon into space. Specifically, he has said, "We are aware of reports that Russia is examining the possibility of placing nuclear weapons in space. This is very worrying. Space is also very important for our deterrence and defense, just as important as land, sea, air, and cyberspace. In recent years, space has become increasingly clouded, dangerous, and unpredictable. We know that competition in space is fierce. I recently had the opportunity to speak to him. He was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in my community as we were commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Peace Accords. His concern was that this is not getting worldwide enough of attention. We had General Saltzman recently in front of the committee. He has characterized that if Russia were to place an anti-satellite nuclear weapon into space, that would be day zero, that if that was put in space, that next day, that it would be irresponsible for us to count on space, that we would have to spend trillions of dollars and seek technology that we don't have to find solutions as an alternative to space, both commercially, for military, in really to redo what is really society today. As you know, it would affect both our nuclear deterrence, our efforts for missile defense, even our investments in Golden Dome. In this venue, obviously, we can't discuss all of the details of what we're doing, but I would ask if you would please confirm that this is a threat that is a priority to the Department of Defense, as it has been characterized by the Secretary General of NATO, and acknowledge that as it is a priority for us to prevent the deployment of nuclear weapons in space, and that it is a priority for us to work with our allies to uphold our commitment to the Outer Space Nuclear Treaty that prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons in space. Sir.
Welcome back to America First, Patriots. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into some critical testimony from Congress that every American needs to understand. If this content helps you stay informed about threats to our national security, please hit that like button and subscribe to help us reach more patriots who need to hear this truth. What we're looking at today is congressional testimony that reveals just how serious the threats are to America's dominance in space. And frankly, it's both concerning and encouraging at the same time.
Well, thank you for the question, sir. As you alluded to, there are a number of aspects to this question or answer that can't be discussed here, but I would underline our complete commitment to the space domain, to the hardening of the space domain, to prevention of escalations in the space domain, but most importantly, to the dominance of the space domain. I mean, that is, it is the future of how we see, it's the future of how we sense, it could be the future of how our adversaries fight and how we deal with that. So I think President Trump, yet again, was ahead of the curve when he created the Space Force in his first administration. People said we didn't need it. We are relying on it every single day now to ensure, alongside the Space Force and private enterprise, that we're delivering the capabilities we need that are resilient, that are redundant, that are capable of all aspects of all domain warfare, if necessary. And preventing adversaries from gaining an advantage is a huge part of how we look at space.
This threat is not classified. Russia's threat of deploying an an anti-satellite nuclear weapon in space is not classified. Obviously, this is a priority to the Department of Defense, and I just want your confirmation that this is a priority that you're tracking, and you too see that as a threat to the United States, and certainly to the United States and our space infrastructure, and certainly, our whole national security infrastructure.
We track all potential escalations, yes, sir.
And lawyer here, I just want to help you out because people try to twist your words. You are not confirming in your testimony today that at the Pentagon there are plans for invading or taking by force Greenland, correct? That is not your testimony today.
All my testimony is that the Pentagon has plans for any number of contingencies.
It is not your testimony today that there are plans at the Pentagon for taking by force or invading Greenland, correct? Because I'm sure as hell hope that it is not your testimony.
We look forward to working with Greenland to ensure that it is secured from any potential threats.
Excellent. I yield back.
Let me break down what's really happening here and why this matters to every single American. First, let's talk about Representative Turner from Ohio. This man gets it. He's asking the hard questions about our nuclear deterrent modernization, and he's absolutely right to be concerned. We are behind schedule on modernizing our nuclear stockpile, and that's unacceptable for the world's premier superpower. The fact that we're even having to play catch-up shows how previous administrations dropped the ball on national defense priorities. But here's what's really alarming. The NATO Secretary General is warning about Russia potentially placing anti-satellite nuclear weapons in space. Think about that for a moment. We're talking about weapons that could cripple our entire way of life. General Saltzman called it a day zero scenario, meaning the day Russia deploys these weapons is the day we can no longer rely on space-based systems. That includes everything from GPS navigation to military communications to commercial satellites that run our economy. The testimony reveals we'd have to spend trillions of dollars to rebuild our infrastructure if this threat becomes reality. Trillions? That's money that could be spent on American priorities, on securing our border, on rebuilding our military strength. Instead, we'd be scrambling to find alternatives to systems we should be protecting right now. Now here's where I want to give credit where it's due. President Trump was absolutely ahead of the curve when he established the Space Force in his first administration. Remember how the media mocked it? Remember how Democrats called it unnecessary? Well, look who's laughing now. The Defense Secretary just confirmed that we're relying on the Space Force every single day to protect American interests. This is exactly the kind of forward-thinking leadership we need. While other politicians were playing politics, President Trump recognized that space would be the next battlefield. He understood that American dominance in space means American security here on Earth. The Space Force isn't some science fiction fantasy. It's a critical component of our national defense that's protecting American families right now. The Defense Secretary's response in this hearing is encouraging. He's talking about space domain dominance, hardening our capabilities, and preventing escalations. That's the language of strength, not weakness. He's confirming that the Pentagon is tracking these threats and taking them seriously. But we need more than tracking, we need action. Here's what concerns me, though. This threat from Russia isn't classified information. They're openly developing anti-satellite nuclear weapons. And yet how much coverage is this getting in the mainstream media? Where are the front-page headlines about Russia threatening to cripple American infrastructure? Instead, we get endless coverage of political theater, while real threats to our national security get buried. This is why channels like ours matter. This is why America First patriots need to stay informed and share this information. The establishment media won't tell you how serious these threats are because they're more interested in attacking conservative leaders than protecting American interests. Let's also talk about the Outer Space Treaty that prohibits nuclear weapons in space. This is exactly why America needs to lead from a position of strength. Treaties only work when everyone follows them, and clearly Russia is considering violating this agreement. We can't rely on pieces of paper to protect American interests. We need space-based offensive capabilities that can counter these threats. The testimony also touched on missile defense systems, including something called Golden Dome. While we can't discuss all the classified details, it's clear that our missile defense capabilities depend on space-based systems. If Russia can take out our satellites, they can blind our defenses. That puts every American city at risk. This brings me to a crucial point about American leadership. We need leaders who understand that peace comes through strength, not through wishful thinking. The Space Force that President Trump created is now essential to our national defense. Imagine if we had listened to the critics who said it wasn't necessary. we'd be even more vulnerable to these threats today. The hearing also briefly touched on Greenland, with the representative clarifying that there are no plans to invade or take Greenland by force. But let's be honest about why Greenland matters strategically. It's positioned perfectly to monitor threats from Russia and provide early warning systems for missile defense. Working with Greenland to secure it from potential threats makes perfect strategic sense. Here's what every American needs to understand. Space isn't some distant frontier anymore. It's where our economy, our communications, our navigation systems, and our national defense all depend on American satellites and space-based infrastructure. When our adversaries threaten that infrastructure, they're threatening our way of life. We need to massively increase investment in space-based offensive systems. We need to expand the Space Force's capabilities. We need to work with our allies to counter Russian and Chinese space threats. And we need leaders who understand that American dominance in space is essential to American security on Earth. This congressional testimony should be a wake-up call for every patriot. While we're dealing with problems at our southern border, while we're facing economic challenges, while we're confronting threats around the world, we also have to defend American interests in space. It's a multi-front challenge that requires serious leadership. The good news is that America has the technology, the resources, and the determination to maintain space dominance. We have the Space Force that President Trump had the foresight to create. We have defense contractors and private companies that are innovating faster than our adversaries. We have allies who share our commitment to keeping space free from nuclear weapons. But we need the political will to make the investments necessary to counter these threats. We need leaders who will prioritize American security over political games. We need a media that will inform Americans about real threats instead of manufactured controversies. Patriots, this is why your engagement matters. Share this video with everyone you know. Make sure your representatives in Congress understand that space defense is a priority for their constituents. Support candidates who understand that American strength deters aggression and protects peace. The threats are real, but so is American resolve. We've faced down the Soviet Union. We've defeated fascism. We've overcome every challenge that's been thrown at us. We can and will maintain American dominance in space, but only if we stay informed, stay engaged, and demand leadership that puts America first. Thanks for watching America First, Patriots. If this analysis helped you understand these critical national security issues, smash that like button and subscribe for more content that the mainstream media won't show you. Share this with every patriot who needs to understand what's at stake. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep America first. Remember, space is a high ground of the 21st century, and America must hold the high ground, protect freedom and democracy for generations to come.